Hi everyone, I know it doesn't make sense to make a video about this Pixel 6 because this is not launching in so many countries, but I think in a short period of time you'll see a lot of listing on Amazon in many countries and you might want to purchase it. So in this video I'm going to talk about whether it's worth importing this phone because I imported this from Australia and a friend brought it for me, or just buying an imported one on Amazon or not. And also I'm going to talk about what Google actually missed that could have made this phone a perfect Android phone. I'm not going to talk about the specs and benchmarks. I think there are a lot of videos out there. I'm just going to talk about my experience. So if I like the experience of a phone, I recommend it to other people. And the first thing that actually make or break the experience is the design and build of the phone. See, looks are subjective, but the feel of the phone isn't. A premium phone feels premium, and so does this one. It is a premium phone and a unique, I might say. The friend who brought this did not like this color, and my partner did not like the size of this, and I don't like the weight and width of this phone. Sure, it feels premium, but it's basically like S21 Ultra but a little bit wider. It feels really heavy, and this is the main reason why I didn't put my main SIM into this. I actually really wanted it, trust me, because I transferred everything on this phone, even my WhatsApp chats as well. After using this phone for a while, my hand started hurting. Sure, I'm coming from this iPhone 13 mini and this is a really light phone if you see the size comparison, like it is really small. But I was also using S21 Plus 6.7-inch phone and that felt a little bit lighter and much more comfortable than this phone. I also don't like this USB-C port here. It's really sharp, so whenever I hold it like this, sometime on this finger, like it stinks for some reason. So that's the first thing Google missed this year. If they have launched a compact phone, or maybe this phone was 6-inch phone or a 4000 milliampere battery, this would have been perfect. Then you'll be able to distinguish the 6.7-inch, the Pixel 6 Pro and this phone. But right now they're quite close. I mean, the weight difference is not that much. The only reason you might be paying for this phone is because it's a little bit cheaper. I also ordered a case for this phone, but that made this phone a little bit more bulkier, so I had to return that phone. I'm also not a fan of the buttons because they are on the same side. I accidentally press the volume button most of the time. Otherwise, the feel of this phone is really good. This camera module also helped me to put my index finger there. The main downside of that bump is when you game on this phone, it will be uncomfortable. The upside of that is it doesn't wobble on the table. Matte finish on the side and the white color on the back doesn't show fingerprint, and it's a really good combination. The back is Gorilla Glass 6 and the front is Gorilla Glass Victus. It is IP68, so it is a flagship phone. And underneath that Gorilla Glass, this is the 6.4-inch OLED display. And that's the second problem I have with Google. Google has a bad record when it comes to OLED displays. A lot of people complain about the screen flickering, green tint and pink tint. My screen has both. See, if you don't use a lot of phones, that might not bother you, but coming from an iPhone display, I can notice it right away on a gray background. This unit can be defective and I can't even replace it. I will get used to it because the rest of the display is really good. I like the colors, the brightness is adequate. Not the brightest panel at this price, but that's okay. The only thing that actually makes up for it is the 90Hz refresh rate panel. It is super smooth, and using 120Hz side by side I can barely see any difference. This phone is snappy as, and the experience has been really good. I've been carrying this phone over my iPhone 13 most of the time, even though I don't have my main SIM in it. There are a lot of bugs in Android 12, but there are a lot of bugs in iOS 15 as well. I know you will ask me why not switch the SIM if you want to carry this phone most of the time. I guess the main reason is the one-hand usability. Even though it has that one-hand mode like iPhone, the phone is still wide and it's really hard to type on it, especially at night. I dropped this phone on my chest and it really hurts. I wish I could use that speech recognition all the time, but I can't. I mean, when someone is sleeping with you or you're in public place or in office, you can't actually do that. But if you can, this is the best experience I ever had with speech recognition. I've started writing my script with it and it is great feature for a lazy person like me. I also like the speakers on this phone, especially coming from iPhone 13 mini. They feel a lot richer. They might not be the best out there, but they're pretty great for me. Listen to this. I mean, they're really loud and really good. Okay, let me stop gushing over it and talk about that fingerprint sensor beneath the display. It's not as bad as people were saying in the reviews, but it is slow. It works around 8 out of 10 times for me, but the haptic feedback coming from the fingerprint really helps. That brings me to my favorite feature of this phone, and that is the haptic motor. It is amazing. I mean, it is better than my iPhone 13 mini. They have changed the motor in this phone, but if you compare it with any iPhone, it is really good. This is the only phone where I have turned on the haptic feedback while typing on the keyboard, because otherwise I turn it off on every single phone. Experience of haptic motor and the response from the OS itself is really good on this phone. I would say the overall experience with Material UI, 90Hz refresh rate, and the flagship processor is really in the favor of Google. I might have seen some stutter in Twitter app, but that could be the problem with the app itself, not the phone. And the small details in animation makes it a really smooth experience. I know the stencil chip is made by Samsung, and there are a lot of people that are complaining that it throttles. It might, but I didn't check any of that. For me, it didn't get warm. The experience has been really good. I also played Call of Duty on it, and the experience was really good. Yes, it will get a little bit warm from this side, or maybe this side as well. But it's mostly on charging while you're doing video recording and playing a little bit of game. But day-to-day use, no issues at all. One small thing that I noticed on this phone is the Wi-Fi and network reception. The Wi-Fi speeds are much better on this phone, even though my iPhone is also Wi-Fi 6 and I have Wi-Fi 6 router, but the speed I'm getting on this phone is better because I think this phone has Wi-Fi 6E. And the network reception and call quality was also good on this phone. This was imported from Australia, but every single SIM in India works perfectly fine. I tried with Airtel, Vodafone and Jio. So the network is not an issue. Also, the reception is a little bit better than my iPhone. When I take it to my gym, I am able to take calls and surf internet there, but I barely get any service on my iPhone. And the last thing before jumping to the camera, you cannot mirror your display using this USB-C. Even though it's USB 3.1, Google did not give us the support. So if you're someone who used to connect your phone with monitor while playing game, you can't do that on this phone. Now it's time for camera. I'm sure you have seen a lot of camera reviews, so my findings might not amaze you. And I'm not going to do the full review right now. Wait for that. And I might compare this camera with iPhone 13 mini. So if you want that, please let me know. But when I come to camera, I mean, yeah, they have upgraded the sensor. This is the new 50 megapixel sensor. You have new ultra wide as well. But the output is kind of similar as last generation. Don't get me wrong, it is a pixel camera and the camera quality is really good. But I think I'm a little bit disappointed with the new sensor. You will notice that especially when you're video call or recording video, because sometimes it sucks there's a lot of grain and the quality is somehow not good. The wide angle camera is not wide enough and the color seems to change when you switch between the cameras. I'm happy with this camera and I was happy with the camera of Pixel 4a as well. But I guess Google relying on software more seriously impacts the video part of this phone, and also the camera app is really buggy. It is too early to talk about battery right now, but my initial impressions are really good. I know people have been complaining about the battery of the Pixel 6 and I think it's not the best because of the size. I mean, if it's the same size in iPhone, the battery would have been much better. But I think it's still okay and I usually get through a day. I'm usually left with 30 to 40% while I go to bed. That's I think my third complaint with Google. Even though the battery size is huge, it's just giving me I think equivalent battery life as iPhone 13 mini. I get 6 hours of screen on time with my moderate use. But I think it could have been better because it's a Google phone. It's not Samsung or any other heavy skin phone. So let's recap all the issues that I think that Google made this phone a perfect Android. So the first thing is the size, the second thing is the display, the third thing is the battery, and the fourth thing is the availability. It is barely available in any country. I think it's available in 8 countries right now. I think this phone could have helped Google to make their name in smartphone industry, especially because of the price. Sometimes I think it makes sense to not launch such expensive phone in India or some other countries because the service of Google is not really good and people do not buy these phones. But I really wish Google launched this phone in India and other countries as well. But as of now, I don't think Google has any plans. See, as much as I love to recommend this phone to you, I think you should be prepared. If anything happens to this phone, there will be no service, no part available in any countries where it is not officially launched. If you have any other question regarding this phone, please let me know. My name is Rohit. I'll see you in the next one. Till then.